on Wednesday, and I want to thank everybody for being here. First, call to order and roll call, Mary.
Okay. Commissioner Moeller, Commissioner Buzen, both are absent at this time. Commissioner Schoenbeck.
Here.
Vice Chairman Standage. Not Vice Chairman, Chairman Standage. I did turn it on.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. Vice Chairman Bory. Here. Commissioner Walde
Here.
and Commissioner Gage.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay, thank you, everybody. Next item is Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Thank you. Now, do I have an acceptance of tonight's agenda?
Mr. Chairman, I move we accept tonight's agenda as written.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, you need a vote, Mary?
Vice Chairman Vice Chairman Bory.
Here, or yes?
Commissioner Moeller.
Yes.
Commissioner Buzen is not here. Commissioner Schoenbeck.
Yes. Yes.
Vice Chairman Standage.
Yes.
Commissioner Walde
Yes.
and Commissioner Gage.
Yes.
Okay. Our next item is acceptance of the minutes of November 7th, 2018.
Mr. Chairman, I move we accept the minutes of November 7th, 2018 as written.
Okay, do I have a second?
Mr. Chairman, I'd second.
Okay, you got Jesse for the second?
Yes.
Okay, may you do a roll call, please?
Commissioner Walde,
Yes.
Commissioner Gage.
Yes.
Commissioner Moeller,
Yes.
Commissioner Buzen is absent, I'm sorry. Commissioner Schoenbeck,
Yes.
Chairman Standage,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Bory.
Yes.
Okay, that takes us down to our next item, which is the director's report. It's now your turn, Liz.
Awesome. Thank you, Chairman Standage. I just wanted to mention that as we talked last week, you'll notice that our agenda is kind of lengthy. I have kind of moved things that we might be talking about that could possibly be discussed and agendaized it into an area. So my director's report will probably be very short, because during the director's report, I just want to remind everybody, we can't have a discussion on the items unless it's agendaized. And I know that felt a little difficult last time. We had a lot of topics that were very, people had a lot of questions of, so I've made sure to add that to our agenda today. But I'll just do a couple of quick updates in my director's report today. Let's see, in your packets, all except for Commissioner Walde, and we'll get you a copy, we have our APRA magazine just came out. And we'll be adding your membership to our Arizona Parks and Rec Association, Commissioner Walde, and you'll be getting those as well. But I'd like to draw your attention to page 16. The Ladybug release, that event was highlighted in that last magazine, and that's one of Jamie Sullivan's babies there, and it's just an event that has really grown. I would really encourage you to read that article. It speaks very highly of Horizon Health and the whole partnership that we have with them. This was one of our several award-winning programs or activities this year at APRA. So definitely take some time to read that. In addition,
Wait a minute.
yes.
You're selling yourself too short. I think you ought to reflect the fact we won the outstanding special event, right?
Yes.
Outstanding facility.
Yes, we got lots. Oh, that's another thing. So the list of the award winners are in there. We did share those this summer once we won, but you can also see a list of all of our award-winning programs and facilities are in there. So Flatiron, the Ladybug event, Fit Family? No. Yeah, I already lost it. You just said them, so that was good. So yeah, please take a look at that too. So we're very, very proud of the magazine. We're definitely all throughout in our state publication. Secondly, I just wanted to give a little update on a couple of major events we had since we last met. Our wellness event was a huge success at the Multi-Generational Center. About 50 vendors this year. We always estimate about 1,500 to 1,800 participants has been typical this year and last year. But a lot of really great resources for the community, and that was definitely very successful. Our holiday event this last weekend, super proud of our staff and the other partners of that event, the police department and public works, all the different fire department, all the groups that kind of make it happen. Really felt like we had more people than ever that were at both the holiday event with Santa and snow, as well as for sure the light parade had many more people on the trail. I heard that it was wall-to-wall people. We actually had people in the median and down the road all the way to our turnaround, around our turnaround. And so the police department just said there was just a ton more people out on the parade route this year. Our lighting ceremony went awesome. I think the mayor did a great job bringing one of the kids in our audience to come out and light the tree. We had a staff member that created a big, I'll call it a mine shaft blaster, something that they got to kind of engage so that the tree was lit upon that after that countdown. So that was kind of cool. At 6:30 we did that. So really proud of staff, and I think everything went really well for that event. And we have plans for it to be bigger. Every year we have something a little new and different. Really want to drum up and get even more entries into the light parade, but the ones that were there were just really amazing what people have put together. So we'll be posting, we do have Matt McNulty took a lot of great pictures, and so we'll be posting that Flickr slideshow here soon on our Facebook and our other various medias so that you guys can see. The last thing in my director's report is I just want to mention that the pool plaster renovation has begun. We're in a week into the project, and so they've drained the pool and they've started the plastering, they've picked the colors, and so they're moving right along and they're on schedule, so that's really good news for us. And Chairman Standish, that concludes my report.
That concludes your report. Any questions from my fellow members here?
Yeah.
I do. You said Flickr,
Okay,
so
Oh.
is City of AJ on Flickr?
Yeah, so the City of AJ has a Flickr account, and Matt McNulty uses that. That'll a lot of times be what we'll share. We'll share a slideshow of an event or something like that. So yeah, Parks and Rec doesn't have our own account, but the city does.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions? Seeing none, we'll move to our next step, which is old business. And again, that's up to you there.
All righty, thank you. So general plan, just wanted to give a little bit of an update on this and then allow any questions or any kind of discussion you guys might have of where we're at in the process. I am going to actually bring it up here on the city website. I meant to get this in here earlier. If you go to our city website, they have, there we go. And there is a redirect link. I think 2020 general plan is the redirect link if you put that in your backslash, but you can kind of keep up to date on the general plan here. It is under our community. It's the very first item that's listed there. And so I just wanted to make sure that you're all aware. And then as you talk to people in the public, this is a very important planning process. So for this next 18 months, we will be doing many different phases of the general plan update for the city as a whole. Larry Kirch, our Development Services Director, is kind of the leading force in this. And I know I shared this, we shared this back in September and maybe briefly last month. But just to kind of let you know, there's several phases. Right now, we are identifying existing conditions. So that's a lot of legwork on staff, as well as a lot of surveying of the community. And so they just had their first community meeting last week, a meeting where it was just the meeting, but they've also had 2 other public, and we're trying not to do just meetings because people tend to not just come and show up to a building. But what they decided to do was to be out at our wellness event, as well as the Festival of the Superstitions. We had a booth, and they stopped people as they were entering to come in and take the survey, to hear about the general plan, and to get some feedback. And so they have several of those kinds of events planned and then these community meetings. But right now we are just in this first phase. the survey data that we have, and as well as several other meetings that have taken place over the last several years are going to be the data that we will be using to kind of look at our general plan and look at what our community needs and our community desires are. So events like, or other planning documents like our active transportation plan, the community town hall that was held September of 2017. We also had an infill EPA workshop that was done with a bunch of businesses and community members. That already garnered a whole lot of action steps and a lot of things that were desired in our community. Our ASU capstone project, all of those things are being looked at by departments to make sure that we are addressing, if there are things that are common threads between all of those, that those are things that are going to be getting incorporated. I will be bringing back to our February meeting kind of the items that relate to us, to Parks and Recreation, because your guys' role in this will be to give advice and look at that data and help us to put what our section, Chapter 9, is actually going to become, I think, Chapter 2, but what that's going to look like. And so we'll be sharing that data after we've gathered all the pieces. We'll share that in February. Commissioner Schoenbeck, did you have a question?
Yeah, well, just a comment. I went to the November 28th meeting. There were 16 people there, 2 city councilmen, 2 board and commission members, and 12 civilians,
Yes.
so to speak.
That's fairly typical.
And what is interesting is in a small town of 38,000 people, and this happened with the active transportation plan too.
Mm-hmm.
So very few people are having any input.
Yep.
At the same time, somehow, whatever we do seems to work pretty well. So I think mostly what it shows me is the community has a lot of trust and respect in our leadership.
Well, that's nice, and
If they didn't, they'd be there screaming.
I think that is true to some degree. And as I said, though, I think also us getting out into other avenues has really been important. And I really commend Larry Kurt, our Development Services Director, because for both the Active Transportation Plan and the General Plan, he has really been desirous of trying to find locations where we can come across residents, where they're already at. He actually tried to get out to Fry. He wanted to be at Fry's and just, basically have a booth inside or a table inside. And for some reason that didn't work out. I don't know that it was Fry's or if it just didn't work out the date. But I know he's been trying to be creative. We have a meeting tomorrow and we'll be talking about other ways to get with the public. But I think that is also a good point that we'll certainly share. But I think definitely getting out where people are at is super important.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I will say that I've seen the survey go throughout most of the platforms,
Okay.
and I know that that's been helpful for a couple that I've talked to. That's where
Good.
they've seen it, so you can pass those
Okay.
comments along as well. The online survey hit me from at least 3 different platforms.
Okay, perfect.
Again, that's kind of more where me and my generation live, so.
Right.
Is it a one-page survey? Is that
It's
Pretty-
10 questions.
10 questions?
I would say it's probably a front and back survey if you saw it on a piece of paper, which is how we did it at the wellness event. But
Yeah, it's a survey monkey.
it's SurveyMonkey online, so you go through it it's fairly quick,
Yeah,
would you
it's
say?
Probably 5 minutes or less, which is.
And actually, I can just show it to you really fast.
There.
If you go to this site, you'll go right to the survey. And so you can see it's 10 questions. It's pretty quick. And they spend a lot of time fielding these questions with actually customers across the desk at Development Services, had them take it and give them feedback on the questions, whether they understood them. So again, this is one we chose not to go out and have a consultant. Many cities spend $250,000 to do their general plan update. We kind of were freaking out a little bit, that we're not going to do that, but our team has done a very good job, I think, at Development Services, and then the directors that are helping Larry. The folks in Development Services have done a really good job of trying to get this out and look at the best practices from the other cities. So we learned what they did and kind of emulated it in-house. Other questions?
Would we be able to have something like that maybe at the Chamber and Visitor Center? Like I don't know whether it would be a paper survey, just
and then be able to turn those in to
They,
you?
you know what, they actually have cards that people could either take and go home and fill out or scan. I will ask at our meeting whether or not they want to, I don't see why we wouldn't want to do that.
Yeah, because
Paper
they're, I mean,
surveys.
it's starting to get heavier
Yep.
now in the visitor center
Yeah.
and chambers, so.
Okay. The next public meeting for general plan is June 19th, but it seems like that's far away, but that's because these first stages are gathering their input, and we're doing it in these various ways. And then it will be pulling some of that together, making some recommendations, and then sharing that with the public for them to have something to respond to say, yeah, I like that, or no, that doesn't look right. So just want to share that with you. Okay, and that's all I have on, unless there's other
Yeah,
questions.
you had mentioned last meeting about funding mechanisms for the dog park. I know it's mildly unrelated. But is it my understanding that we have to have specific venues in the general plan in order to receive certain types of funding for them? Is that?
So it's not that we have to have it in there, but it does guide budget, and it guides the capital improvement plan that we do. For most grants, having it in your general plan or in a strategic document gets you many more points than if you don't. What's that?
To get a grant.
Yeah, so for many of the grants, that's the case. I don't think that there is a law that says that we can't do any improvement without it being in the general plan. And if there is, we have a little bit of generic language that allows, so again, it's a very general plan, and it allows for decisions, because what we decide this, year, it's updated every 10 years, even 5 years from now, there will be things that will change. So priority shifting and those kinds of things. So it is important to have it in there for many
It is
funding
important
reasons,
to have
though.
a long-term,
Mhm.
what we're trying to
Yeah.
accomplish.
Okay, next item you've got there is BLM update, Liz?
Yes, this one is really short. I just wanted to reemphasize what we mentioned last week and make sure there's no questions. So our multi-use trail lease has been renewed, and that's signed and done. We are in the process of Prospector Park and the rodeo grounds. That's the one where we're carving out a little bit of the Prospector Park land that we are currently using for parking at the rodeo grounds. We are just moving that little piece of land into the rodeo grounds lease so that it's meeting their needs and what has to happen for our plan of development. Right now, we've already submitted everything we are supposed to submit, and they are reviewing it. It is a lengthy process. So simultaneously to them reviewing our renewal, they are moving forward on next steps for getting the appraisal process of everything. So that way, we can keep going forward with our renewal, but as soon as that renewal is over, hopefully we'll have some pieces in place to help us to make a decision on whether or not we're going to go out for a patent, which just means it's ours permanently in a lease. We still have to do all the same things we've always done. We can't have commercial use out there. Or if we choose to purchase the property and have commercial concerts and other things out there, which is desirous of some of our council members and our mayor. And I think we would like to have a little bit more flexibility on some of our property. Most of our land is either BLM or the school district, and so we are limited on what we can do. So that's where we're at right now, and I just wanted to open it up to questions.
Now, Liz, on getting these renewals done, is that for a 25-year period roughly? And we're not going to have to do the anthropological or ecology studies again, are we?
So for the multi-use trail, that one is a 25-year lease that
Okay.
just started. No, we don't have to do any, and then this next one, they are recommending probably not a 25-year lease, but something a little bit shorter, because they want their properties to go to patent. They don't want to have to keep messing with it every time. And so they want to really encourage us all along to go right to either patent or to purchase. When we go to patent or purchase, so part of that process, the appraisal, we also have to do all of the environmental studies, the archaeological studies, So the real more detailed one, those will have to take place if there's anything related, and there's nothing archaeological right now at Rodeo Grounds or Prospector Park. It's all on the multi-use
It's all
trail.
on the trail area,
Yep.
because that's what my maps show.
Yes, and so when we choose to go to Patton for that, which we will be looking at, we will definitely need to budget for and plan for those studies.
Okay.
And we, like I said, we will be doing all of that stuff, right? You know, here simultaneously learning what does that cost and what do we have to do so that we can plan it in our budget for this next year. Because simultaneously to them renewing our lease, we want to be ready to go when it's time to decide on patent or purchase.
May I recommend you get a hold of Kent Taylor? Because
We've been in constant contact with Kent Taylor. I have,
he's been
Yep.
trying to get stuff done.
Yeah.
On archaeological that
Yep.
it would be free.
yeah, so we've done, we have probably an every other month meeting between all of us and for
Yeah.
Pinal County and then Florence, because we all share a lot of the same contacts at BLM. So, yep,
And the same problems.
yes, that's
Okay,
it on that one.
that's it for BLM. Anybody else have any questions? Heather? Frank?
Nope.
Judy? Walter?
Nope.
Jody? Nope. Okay, let's go to our next one, which is dog park research.
So just wanted to share with you kind of where we're at on that. You know, we were feeling like gangbusters scheduling a meeting, and we had a lot of ideas, or I did, and it just was much more challenging than I anticipated to get everybody together. But I think we have all of our group. We have a couple of very interested community members, and then our 3 commissioners that are going to be on that focus group. And what we're looking at is sharing out with them a couple of tour opportunities for these December dates. Something where they can come with me if they would like to, but if they can't because of schedules and the holidays, they'll have very clear idea of where they can go and visit for both existing dog parks in our nearby areas, but also our locations that we are currently considering. So that way everybody can go and take a look at it. And then at our first meeting in January, so right after the holidays, we would be able to get our group together, give plenty of notice of when that meeting is, and then that focus group can meet, go over, have a little bit of understanding of the properties and also what is possible out there when we meet. It might be just one meeting. We might be able to easily come up with some, I think our goal is to have a short-term priority, like a short-term choice and a long-term choice, or it might be just prioritizing our choices in order. But we'll be talking with that. And then I'd love for us to be able to be bringing that back to the commission meeting that's in February. So that way it can be talked about and we can invite the rest of the public. They can certainly hear what we're talking about. And I think that focus group will help us to determine where we're at on that.
Okay, what 3 members are now doing this for you?
Last meeting, we determined that Heather Moeller, Walker Waldy, and Jesse Gage had volunteered to be a part of that.
I just needed to reaffirm.
Remembering?
Brain.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
So any questions you might have on that? The other thing I wanted to share with the group that we'll be sharing with the focus group is that we have been talking with the school district and BLM as well as Pinal County to just talk about those properties that might be affected by then so that we had at least some general ideas. And so we'll be sharing that with our focus group. We'll weigh that into our conversation, and then we'll be sharing that at the February meeting. Oh, and I wanted to also mention really quickly, we did learn that our development fees that we're collecting now, we've also started our development fee, we have to do a new development fee plan. And our consultant has indicated that the way we're set up right now, that we could use current development fee money towards a dog park. So that is great news for us because we have about $250,000 in the bank right now. We've been accruing quite a bit here in these last 6 months or so with some of the new buildings that are going up. So I think that was our 200, so don't quote me on 250, 200 to 250, but it was a number that I was really happy to hear, so.
There's a couple more developments.
Yeah, and we have more on the way. And so we're really excited about the fact that we could use current money, wouldn't have to wait for future money. So that's
I just had to pay that development fee.
Yeah.
So.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you for that.
Get a chip in.
Yeah, a little chip.
Okay.
There you go. Okay. You ready for the next one, special event process, Monday?
Yes. I just wanted to share with you, we had shared quite a while back ago with council, and then I shared some of that information with all of you. I believe it was this summer, maybe early fall. Just that there is a special event process for the city, and more so for our outside special events. So when we budget for an event, we have events that are already in our radar that we do every year that we budget for. When we want to do new things, we have to budget for it. When the community wants to hold a special event, there are different practices. And I just wanted to draw our attention really quickly. I'm going to actually type it in real quick because it'll be easier. So if you go to on the website, if you go to ajcity.net/events, so events is our /, you can get right away to see the common major events that we offer every year. And we put them, they're kind of in order. We kind of let you know when approximately those are offered. But if you scroll to the very bottom, and this is in a couple of different places on the website, but this is the easiest one for me to get people to, is that there is a special event planning process that we encourage the community to go through. And so one of the documents, I'm not going to go through it. I just wanted to bring your attention to it. But we've really tried to simplify through sort of a diagram what the process is. Until you go through it, I think it always feels a little bit confusing. But the first question is always, is the event at a park or is it somewhere else in the city? And if it's at a park, Jeff Kopp, our recreation coordinator that handles all of our facility reservations, as well as many of the events at Flatiron Park, he's the coordinator for that. He will help with any kind of a special event in that area. And so that has his contact information right there. Calling him is the first step because he can help guide that person through every single bit of the rest of the process so that they are not winging it and trying to figure out what they need to do with the fire department or with the city clerk's office or with any other kinds of street needs. If the event is held within the city limits and it's not at a park facility, then their first call is to Al Bravo. Email him or call him and talk to him. And then he will determine whether or not they need to go through the process of filling out a whole special event application or if their event even qualifies as a special event in our code. Many things that are done on private property, people can do, as long as it doesn't affect roads or it's not noise issues with the public. There's a lot of things that don't require anything, the city getting involved at all or making it any more complicated than it is to have something. So those are the two most important things that I really want all of our advocates to kind of know about, that as you are, keep that on your radar, that when you see that out on social media or out while you're talking and people say it's so hard, this is the best place to get them to. These two are the people who want to make it as easy as possible and will bend over backwards to make sure they do so. In addition, so once that's been decided, we want the public to know that there are things that they need to consider in having a special event. Everybody thinks it's simple and that it's no big deal to throw an event or that it's just something that can just be whipped together. There's a lot of things that need to be considered that are not city ordinances, that are not just city ordinances. Some of them are state liquor licenses, health permit things that we have absolutely no control over. So county laws, state laws, different things that we want people to think about. And so again, this is just a really great document that can guide people, and it's located on our site. Additionally, if folks are not sure whether it's a city park or not, or whether they need to call Jeff or Al, if they go to the second page on here, this is basically on our handout, it's the back. They can actually identify, by name, what are the facilities that they need to be talking with Jeff about. And then they can also have a link to our rental page if they want to look at fees and different things like that. Okay? There was one more quick thing. Darn it. Let me go here.
Is the computer moving faster than you want?
No, it just gets shaky when you're trying to move this mouse. The other piece is that there is vendor process information, so a lot of our major events, again, we've kind of tried to simplify that here's the pieces that you need to know if you're having these types of things. If you're not, then you don't need, it looks a little complicated, it looks like a lot of information, but that's just so that way everybody is giving the same information. The city clerk's office, our special event coordinators, and then the people who are trying to run the event. And so we just wanted to share that. There are 7 special events that are considered civic events. They're considered events that the city council has deemed we are going to partner with other agencies on. Examples are Lost Dutchman Days, Lost Dutchman Marathon, the Lost Dutchman Days Parade, the Festival of the Superstitions, Ben Jonson Days, the Veterans Parade. I'm missing one. The Early Day Tractor Show that has happened. So those 7 are in the budget. All the resources that they require, and some of them require a lot, have already been approved long ago. And every year I present that at our budget meeting to say, are you still wanting to do these same events? We always have people asking, well, how do we become one of those? It's not easy because, we have a lot of resources there, and it is a budget process. And so if somebody wants to add to that, they need to, prove why the city should be involved with that, why city taxpayers should be a part of that, and also that it's an event that people want to come to, that it's a major deal. So that's to be one of these outside events. Another agency's putting it together, and they want to be a part of that. Their first step would really be to come and talk with myself, and we would talk them through what would that take to do it. But the other way they can have the event is just to rent the park or rent the area that is actually doesn't cost a lot of money, and they don't have all of the same things that might come with being partnered with the city. So there's civic events, and then there's community events. So every other event that is not one of those 7 is considered a community event. All of our events are considered community events. We have to follow all the same rules that you see as any other event in our community that anybody else does. So let's say somebody has a great event and it sounds like something that meets one of the goals that Jamie and her team want to have happen in the next year. We really wanted to have events at Flatiron. If we could partner with somebody for that, then we did. So for example, the Blues and Brews Festival. JC could have partnered with the Chamber. The Chamber is a nonprofit who could have rented the park. They could have had their own event and just rented the park. But we were all trying to learn sort of how could we do this event with beer, with all this music, working with a promoter for the first time. And it was something we wanted to test the waters in, that we had gotten approval from our council and everybody to be looking at that. And so that one is a partnered community event. It's not part of the 7 that council, it's one that is just done by the department. It is not like one of the major events, even though feels like a major event. So the civic events are those 7 I mentioned. They're council-adopted events. Everything else is a community event. They might partner with a department. So somebody might partner with the police department to do the domestic violence awareness event at one of the parks. That's considered a community event, and very limited resources are put towards that. That's all I really wanted to share about special event process.
Okay.
If you have any questions, I'm happy to share them. It is the most very important thing is that most all things require some types of fees, and those are to help with the operating of our facilities as well as the services that are rendered at that, and they're important to do. We do keep them very reasonable. Many of you were part of the team that passed our most recent fee market study and the fee recommendation to council about 4 years ago. We'll be due to be doing that again in another year and looking at it. And we'll have a lot of new things that we're going to be wanting to consider as we get there.
Well, you
Question.
answered my question.
Okay.
When was that coming due again?
Yes, so soon.
Okay. Any questions so far? Okay. Our last item is active transportation plan update.
And this one is another short one that I just wanted to mention in case you had questions and you needed any clarification. The most recent draft and a new survey, the survey is one question, it's just putting your comments about the plan. The draft plan has been shared, so they shared things here with our planning and zoning, and our joint planning and zoning Parks and Rec Commission meeting.
Right.
They received that feedback, and the things that worked or that they could do, that has been incorporated to the extent that they could. And now that draft is shared with the public, and they are receiving input on that. So again, they visited the Festival of the Superstitions and the wellness event, and they had maps of the plan, they had a card, and they talked with a lot of folks. Jamie was generous enough to give us the entrance to the MGC, and we were the people handing out the most popular bags for everybody, so everybody had to come to our tent. And in order to get a bag, they had to hear somebody talk to them about active transportation and fill out, or at least consider filling out a survey. So we got a lot of really good feedback, especially from a population that might care about active transportation, the non-motorized use, and that's what we really needed. So again, really kudos to the team that was working on that for trying to find new ways to get out there and talk to the public, because our usual meeting just doesn't work, anymore.
Isn't this part of J2? Were they out
Yes, so
there?
J2 is the consultant.
Yes.
We have a MAG grant that helped to pay for that consultant to come and do this major plan, which is great because we are using this plan for many pieces of the general plan. So that's at least has a consultant. Yes.
That was my one deal. Are recreational parts that are in the current general plan, are they being absorbed into the active transportation, bicycles, horses?
So they
From the
used
whole
our
thing.
old general plan
Right.
and our master trail plan, all of that was incorporated into the active transportation plan, which they shared, yes. The active transportation plan is gonna come back to all of you at a joint planning and zoning, planning and zoning and Parks and Recreation Commission meeting. We talked about this in the past, but that is scheduled for January, so we will not have our own January meeting. We will be having a joint meeting on January 8th, which is a Tuesday night, but they will move their normal 7 p.m. down to 6 p.m. so that we're all compromising a little bit.
Yeah, this will be the one where planning and zoning will be in charge.
Yes, Tess, or whoever their chair is. I don't know when they elect their chairs, but their chair will lead. And
Right.
yes, Chairman Standish led the last one. He did a nice job. So any questions on that? Or any concerns?
No.
We do have to have a quorum for that date, so it's really important that if you can't make it, that you just let us know in advance so that we can make sure that we have a quorum. Okay?
Okay, I've got that to mark on my calendar at home.
Really quickly, if you go to ajcity.net/active,
Okay.
you can look at where they're at, and so you can get a heads up of what's coming down the pike if you haven't already seen it for that meeting. Although they are taking feedback right now and they might make some minor modifications before they present to us in January. And that's all I have on that.
Okay, we're done with that of the old business. Any questions from my fellow commissioners? Nobody has any questions? Okay. Then we'll proceed to our next item, number 8, which is new business. And I'll just let you take those two pieces however you want.
Great. Well, at this time, so our first one is our Parks and Rec marketing plan. It was asked at our last meeting to have on the agenda to be able to share a little bit about how we address marketing, and so I brought our expert on that subject. Jamie Sullivan is in charge of our recreation division. She's the recreation superintendent, and I'll let her go from there.
Good evening. Some new faces. I don't think I've met yet, but Jamie Sullivan, Recreation Superintendent, and I'm going to share with you a little bit about how Parks and Recreation markets. Now, I do oversee Recreation Division, but I also market our parks because we wouldn't have anywhere to play if I didn't have those. So they kind of go hand in hand. Just want to give you a little bit of background that we do not have a marketing person per se. One of the advantages of being in a small town or a small city is you get to do a little bit of everything. So we used to have an equivalent position that would have had about a full person of doing marketing and our brochure and whatnot, but that position kind of dissolved when things got going tough, and we've just never really concentrated on bringing back or been able to have that full-time position, that amount of hours. But we have not diminished our marketing efforts at all because of that. If anything, marketing has changed and evolved probably more rapidly than anything since I have been in Parks and Recreation. And so I'm going to touch a little bit on how we market, that different avenues that we market. I do talk fast, so if you have questions, feel free to stop. I don't feel like you're interrupting me. It's a way to slow me down and let me catch my breath. So, any questions so far as I catch my breath? I did give you guys a little packet.
Yeah.
This is just a snapshot of some of the ways that we market and a glimpse of some of the bigger pieces. So we market through print, through social, we have websites that we market through, and then there is this big giant group of other. So within print is the newspapers. We have great relationships with both of our local newspapers. Our citizen brochure, which is in your packet, it's kind of the big, bulky newspaper looking thing. This is hot off the press, just came out this week. So the citizen brochure captures almost everything we do within that time frame. All of our big events or new programs that we're trying to push, they'll get almost every avenue of marketing that we do. There's no way for us to market every single thing we do in every single avenue. We just don't have the manpower, and it's not always useful either. So as you trickle down, you might see, oh, they have belly dancing class in here, but I don't see it on Twitter, I don't see it on Facebook, I didn't see a news release. Well, again, we don't market every single piece every single time. We do have what we call the lizard line in the AJ News, and that does encompass a lot of our smaller programs that happen on a regular basis. We offer over 20 different types of yoga classes a week, 10 different versions of it. There'd just be no way to market that. So we kind of would group all of that together. Our citizen brochure does come out 3 times a year. We do school publications, we do flyers to the schools, Chamber of Commerce we're at. Judy, you hopefully see our stuff down there all the
School publications,
time.
what do you mean by school public, like in their local school newspaper and that, is that what we're talking
So
about?
we're
School
in their
publications?
yearbook,
Okay.
in Cactus Canyon's yearbook. We're in their sports publications. I think they do one 3 times a year. I think the news does theirs. So we're in there as well. And then we're actually in the schools. We take flyers to the schools.
Okay.
And we'll talk about the direction that the school is going here in a little bit, but we do partner with the school. We're in their programs, we're in their after-school programs.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how we get our print out through the schools.
Okay.
We'll also take down big, nice colored flyers and hang that where we think are prominent places at the school. In your packet is a trifold of the Multi-Gen Center. We have several different trifolds for different avenues. I will say what's difficult about print media is things do change, so you have to remember where to go change them. So I was going to print out our parks one, but we haven't necessarily updated it with Flatiron Park. So we need to update it before I present one to you. So that's a little bit about print media. I dropped a bunch of stuff, so I'm going to pick it up real quick.
Now, Jamie, do you handle the display there at the focal point?
At the you mean the marquee?
The marquee?
So the marquee goes through the city manager's office,
Okay,
but they post all of our stuff there as well.
yeah.
Yeah, Heather, Jill does a really good job of pulling our stuff, and she just pulls the things. If we want something very specific, then we will email her and ask her and make sure that it gets up there. So social media, that's the big one. That's the one that is constantly changing. I could go to a training every week on social media. I could spend 24 hours Googling and looking it up. We don't have an expert. So most of what we have learned on our own, or we've done some trainings through our local conferences. Every single coordinator is responsible for marketing their own area. through all of these avenues. So all of our full-time staff, including our assistants and our senior rec leaders, have access to social media because social media is 24/7. So it's no longer just marketing, it's customer service. So if we're not responding to social media, and social media does not have business hours. I'm very proud that our response time on social media, on Facebook, is less than, I think it's at 57 minutes. So that means on average, if somebody sends us a post at 2 a.m., it doesn't mean we responded within an hour. It means that in general, our general response is within 57 minutes. We get compliments. Poor gentleman got 3 responses from all 3 coordinators at 10 o'clock at night because we were all managing it and we were all able to get him the information, or she, I'm not sure, get them their information. So there's lots of hands in the pot, but that also means it's easy sometimes for things to slip through the cracks because somebody might have thought, well, I thought somebody else got to that, or I thought somebody posted that. But because it's live, we're able to catch it pretty quick. So I want to show you real quick. There are lots of different avenues for social media. Facebook right now is our #1 platform. It is the one that engages the most and gives us the broadest reach, and we have the most interaction with folks. So in 1 week's time, we had 8,000 engagements. That's not people who saw it. That's how we engaged with somebody. So they liked something, they shared it, they commented, they responded to it. In 1 week's time, 8,000 engagements. So it's pretty active. This is our Facebook. This is what it looks like to our users. We post pictures. You can see here the visitors, they really like us. We get to hear great things from them. We always try to respond to that. So you like it or you comment, most likely we're going to say thank you for your response, for your comments. We'll look into that. In 28 days, we had over 50 posts, so our staff are actively engaging on Facebook. So new to us is Instagram. So we've just started an Instagram post because if you weren't aware of this, so email is for people 50 and older. That's how you market to people who are over 50 is through email. If you want to email to 30 and over, you use Facebook. If you, on a majority case. If you want to email to, or if you want to engage people under 30, you're going to Instagram or Snapchat. So we started in on Instagram, so we're fairly new to this. You can see our very first post was in regards to the mud run. So we started about mid-October with Instagram. And
Do we have a Snapchat?
we do not have a Snapchat. Snapchat happens very fast.
Yeah.
It doesn't stay, and you can't record retention it. So makes it very difficult for municipalities to engage in Snapchats.
Okay.
And I'll talk a little bit about that. But so we have just, like I said, we just started our Instagram. We're starting to get used to it. Our staff are starting to use it more. It's very phone-based, so it's not something we can do from a desktop as easily as we can do Facebook. So again, we're having to relearn that. We're having to rework it. But in a short amount of time, we've been able to manage 267 followers. That's pretty good, seeing how we've just launched it. So we're pretty excited about Instagram. One of the things that we have tried with in Snapchat, because you brought that up, is geo-filters. So you can geo-filter locations, which if this is too much information, I'm sorry. But if you take a picture in Snapchat, sometimes you can attach a frame to it. And people will use that as marketing. So you can put a great little logo or an icon. The problem with their Snapchat geo-filters is you have to run certain programs, and those programs are very difficult for us to run on city software. So it has not been very effective for us to be able to use it. It's very time-consuming with very little return.
Right.
So
Can I just clarify too, if you're not familiar with it? So you take your picture, and then when you're in a certain location, so like if you were at Flatiron, for example, Jamie, when she created the geo filter, which is like a border, an image, she can designate where that shows up. So she might take a marker on the little thing and she'll make it be Flatiron. So when you're standing in Flatiron, you can thumb through several of the different.
See if I can find one.
Okay, good.
Easier.
And then you guys can see it. but it's really cool. We spent lots of time trying to create them. They also have to approve them. You pretty much have to pay for them to get created.
This is one that Amazon did. It's just basically a frame around you, and you can put your face in it, and it'll go from there.
Yes.
Sorry.
It's very fun, and Snapchat is even for the younger crowds, I would
Yeah,
say.
if you want to get basically 16 and under, you're in
Yeah.
Snapchat. So.
So we talked to our Yak kids about it a little bit, but again, there's a lot of restrictions in regards to what you can do using the city systems. They have firewalls, Snapchat. They get a lot of viruses, so it's not as easy as a program to work with. So we haven't really concentrated on Snapchat. The other is Twitter, which I did not put up because I could not remember our password and I forgot to bring it. I don't know that one off the top of my head. Twitter only has, we have about 633 followers on Twitter, and we've had it as long as we've had Facebook. Twitter is not a platform that works as well for parks and recreations. There are a lot of political posts, athletic posts, maybe some business or financial world, but we really want to share our story more than what Twitter really allows us to do. It's great for being able to put short and sweet things out there, maybe a picture. So we're really thinking if that's a platform that we want to continue to use, but right now we still have it. We try to manage all of these through one program called Hootsuite. So Hootsuite allows us to go on and send out one post, and it should go to all of these platforms, which works really well except for Instagram wants their picture this way. Twitter only wants so many characters, or they want their picture formatted that way. Facebook is pretty liberal, so it's easy to post to Facebook. So sometimes we think it's going to all of them, but the only one that will recognize it is Facebook. So we're trying again. We're training ourselves in what is the best and the easiest way to make sure we can hit all of those platforms with the touch of a button. So
How long have you been using Hootsuite?
we've been using Hootsuite for a very long time.
Okay, because that's not even on my radar. No, so I
Well, Hootsuite is a back-end
right,
platform
yeah.
that we use.
It's like, so I kind of dwell in this world a little bit. That's what I do as a part-time business as well, and that's one that I haven't really even
So
heard of as
Hootsuite
a
isn't something a
management
user
tool. Right.
would go to. It's what we would use. It's a
Right.
tool for us.
So it's a team collaboration posting tool.
Yeah, but it has its
No,
works.
so I think you're thinking like that a team would do. It's like the thing that's in the background that we can make one post and it will go out to Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook all at
all
one
at the same time.
And you can time it, so that
Right.
you want to do it at
Right.
10
I mean,
a.m.
yeah.
Yes.
So
There's many of them. That just happens to be the one that
Right.
we
well,
logged
just
into
'cause,
early on.
I mean, recently, probably in the last 12 months, most of the platforms have integrated. Google and Apple collaborated and came across with a new software that allows you to basically all your apps, as long as they're logged under one email, you can cross-post basically to everything without having to use a separate management software. I mean, I can look into Hootsuite as well, just to give some recommendations and feedback.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
We would love
I've
it.
never even heard of Hootsuite, and like,
It's old.
Yeah, it is old.
Yeah, and getting into the Instagram world, if you go to Instagram, you can post on Instagram and it'll hit your Facebook feed at the same time, but you can't go to Facebook and have it go to your Instagram at the same time. You have to know that you start with Instagram and then it will funnel.
Yeah.
Again, Hootsuite, if we go to Hootsuite, and it also works with our Rained Out program that we work for our canceled classes, where it sends people text messages. So if it can hit 3 out of the 5 platforms, we're happy with it. So that is social media. Any questions on social media?
Sorry, I know I'm the
Go for it.
loud one in the room, but how many marketing dollars are put towards print versus social media versus our own webpage development? Is there an allocated resource? Am I allowed to ask those questions? I don't know what I'm allowed to, just because
Yeah. So I have a total marketing budget. I don't know exactly where I know the total amount. I could get that for you pretty easily, because some of it goes towards print, so we will pay for some ads if we need to. Our citizen brochure, if we go over our allotted amount, I have to pay a little bit more for that. Facebook and Instagram, you can boost between both of them and it will go to both of them. On average, Facebook, I probably spend anywhere from $200 to $300 a month on Facebook. That's where we also see the most return and you get the most analytics to know if it's working, if it's not working.
And are you constraining boosted posts to maximize the ones that are engaging?
Yes, so,
Or
and it
doing any
depends.
type
It
of-
depends on what it is we're boosting. So if we know that, so for example, our 4th of July event, I don't need to boost that because it's such a big event already. But when we changed the time to 8:30 instead of 9, we definitely wanted people to know that time. So we can set those parameters to, are we just wanting AJ folks? If I am trying to promote a class that is mostly either a female or a male-centered class, then I can pick gender-specific. If I see that that boost is working and we have a lot of engagements, then I can increase it and keep it going. Because if we're getting a lot of likes and a lot of questions and then boom, it turns off, I can keep that going. Is that kind of what you were asking?
So more on the back end, are you using the analytics that you're getting from previous posts to constrain so that we're using those marketing dollars to the best of our ability to hit those that would be affected by those activities?
So are you asking, like, if I know that most people are looking at it between 4 and 6, and so that's when
Between
we're...
4 and 6, the ages of 32
Yes.
to 50.
Yep. So we get
male,
our insights
female.
from Facebook,
Right.
and
okay.
generally for most people, they see peaks during the day. Our peaks happen in the
During night,
evening.
right, during
So,
leisure time.
yep, so we can set when we're gonna have them released, when they're gonna be, and I can see who's targeting it more, who's liking it more, who's engaged in it more. Is it the younger kids? Is it the older kids? I say older kids, I mean our seniors, you know.
I was gonna ask you.
Thank you, Jamie.
They're all kids
Thank
to
you.
us. So I can change those. Facebook, again, is very user-friendly, but being that we don't do this every day, it takes a little bit of time for us to play with it and for us to learn. We've only been paying for advertising and boosting for maybe not quite yet 2 years.
Okay.
And so we're learning, and we're learning what works, and we're learning what doesn't work.
I think, though, if you had some time, we would love to have maybe a little more in-depth conversation, because I
Yeah,
think
was gonna say, I don't
just
wanna
with your
keep- I don't
background,
wanna keep-
it would be a
Definitely.
great tool for us, and we would certainly love to chat a
Yeah,
little bit
especially
more
as we're,
about it.
venturing into Instagram, because I know that
Yeah.
like my wife is pretty active in Instagram and Facebook and stuff, and that's where all of her friends and most of my friends, we dwell more in the Instagram than Facebook.
Yep.
I have one, but I don't
Instagram
really
is
log on.
absolutely growing, and that's where we follow other cities and other parks and recreation to see what they're posting, how they're posting, what's working, what's not working. We see that other cities, within their own division, they have their own pages, and so that is kind of on our horizon, our pool, having our own Instagram just for our pool followers. I know that my daughter, she follows specific types of Instagram pages. She doesn't want something
filters.
big. She's like, I just want eyeshadow people. I just want, so there's people that just want pool information. So can we give that to them? Can we, but also keep in mind that there is the record retention component of that. And so we have to make sure that everything we put out there in the cyber world, that we can record retain it as well. So every new page is more record retention archival that we have to make sure that we can manage all of that.
Okay.
Anything else?
Can I just mention real quick in summary, you were talking about just the cost. So we don't pay, just as a reminder to all of you, we don't pay anything for the Citizen brochure. They sell ads, the AJ Independent, and that's what pays for this The only thing that we would pay for is if we go over our allotted pages, we might pay for an extra ad. So we'd pay a discounted ad fee. Our print media that we pay for is all ads, so it's not printing flyers. We have a print shop in our office, so I mean, while we pay for paper, obviously, it's literally like a cent per flyer. So our total budget for marketing, if I were to look at print and the things that are truly that kind of marketing, I mean, it's in the $1,000 to $1,500 world, and Jamie kind of shared a little bit about Facebook. In fact, it's even less than that probably. Because in Facebook, we definitely spend more on our social media than we do on the print. Because we're able to get away with
Yeah.
having a free.
And like
major
our
publication.
newspapers, they print, we are on the front page for the Mud Run, we're on the front page for the holiday event, we're on the front page for 4th of July. We don't pay for those articles. Those are meaningful. That's what people want to read about, and the newspaper thinks that it's newsworthy. They'll come out and they do our small fitness. We were just featured in Fitness for Homeschoolers, and they took lots of pictures and they did, story pieces on it. So we don't pay for those types of articles.
Yeah, and I don't mean to come across as I'm trying to come down. I think that the Parks and Rec and Apache Junction are one of the best that I've seen and participated in, and over the past 6 years I've lived in 4 or 5 different cities, so I've been moving around.
You should get on our Facebook page and write that in the notes.
Oh.
You should give us a 5-star
That's why
review,
I
and you
think
can
I think
put
that
that in
sometimes it
there.
doesn't come across, because I read the newspaper heavily because I'm trying to be involved and I try to be understood, but I know there's a lot of people that are in my age category that they just throw it away.
Yep.
I've gone to friends' houses and they've got a stack of them next to the fire, unfortunately, and that's where that goes. It starts their fires in the backyard. And that's why I want to make sure that we can engage everyone across every spectrum, and I know that that's where most people are getting their information nowadays.
It is.
Facebook, Instagram.
It is.
And yet at the Chamber and Visitor Center, they're picking up.
It's paper.
They
Yeah.
want paper.
Yep. That's why we know the importance of doing all 3 of
Yeah.
these, or all of this. The 3 main ones, and again, like I said, with not one person solely dedicated to it, it's 12 different people, which sounds like, oh, you have all these people, but they are 12 people that already have a full-time job. They didn't used to have to do as much marketing for their own program areas. Someone else did it. So now they're adding it into their daily, responsibilities, and they do a fantastic job. Every time I throw something new at them, here we have Instagram. Younger staff are great. They're on their phone. They're teaching me how to use it, the older staff. And when I say older, I mean me, and I'm not old by all means. But we have to hit all of those avenues, because we definitely, our target is from 0
Right.
to,
To 100.
105. Whatever walks through the door.
Okay, Liz, I do have a question. How is it going for filling up the different programs you offer through all the different sources? I mean, you're talking seniors, family.
Are you asking about
Sign-ups?
participate? Oh, he has
The
to. Sorry.
participation,
Okay,
do you
you
have
can.
much cancellation?
Yeah, so there's certain things that cancel, and I think it's always an ongoing process. So for example, our group fitness classes, I think we figured out we have about 100 a week.
Okay.
And so then in a month, we have 400. We're looking at how many get canceled every month. We've had 9 in 1 month, 8, 4 in some of our earlier months.
Yeah.
Out of 400 classes in that time frame. So it's actually a really good number for those. Other things, it just depends, especially for new programs, trying to find the exact time that people want it, and for the right people, that can be challenging. I'd say the majority of our programs, though, go really well. I mean, we generally have classes that go. There are things that get canceled.
There is, and I think people tend to notice when they see something saying canceled, because we don't post every time we have a class going. If we posted when we had a class going every day, yoga going, trail walking going, salt series, so I think they might tend to stand out more. But in the relative big picture, if you want to try new things, you have to take risks.
Right.
Yeah.
And sometimes it takes a couple of times. Sometimes people say they want things and we realize they really don't, or they didn't want it
Only
at
one
that time.
wanted it.
So we're gonna, try it again.
Right.
So,
Loudly.
but I would say the other, for the most part, our programs do well, and some of them might go with 5, but that's what makes that a good class. Some, we want 20 and we'll get 25, so.
And you're having good feedback from those that are attending the classes.
We do.
Oh, yeah.
We do. And I would say, just back to your first question, yes, all these marketing avenues, though, is why they do better. I mean, we've had times where we really struggled to fill certain classes that were new. Having all of these outlets is a really good way. Jamie's really hard on our coordinators of, yeah, it didn't go. Well, what did we do to market it? What did we do to make sure that we were going to give it every chance that it got, and that we can try, when we try it again, we need to try some other things.
We had something like 3,000 people say that they were coming or interested to coming to our movie in the park. 3,000, over 3,000 people. Our park only holds 3,000 people. So you're just like, and then you learn that, okay, 3,000 people said they're coming, 500 showed up, right? And then we've had some people who say 100 people are going and 500 show up. So we can use it as a little bit, but at least we know 3,000 people saw it. 3,000 people thought about it. 3,000 people wanted to be there. And so the next time it comes around, we're going to keep gaining that momentum. Good. So real quick, I will show you our website. So there's the main city website, and there is a Parks and Recreation page. You guys are all familiar with that, but what you might not be familiar about is when you get to the web page, do you ever scroll a little bit down and you see here's the news releases? Boom, right there, Parks and Recreation, Parks and Recreation, Parks and Recreation. And then there's these other folks over here. Then if you go down even further, the web page has a calendar of events. Do you guys all signed up to get your notifications when Parks and Recreation is having an event? I know you do, Frank. Anybody else? So you can go to the city webpage. You can sign up to get notifications of when an event is happening, and you will get this nice little email that says, hey, there is a movie in the park. There's going to be 3,000 people there. You should show up. So if you click here, so what's happening in Apache Junction? Parks and Rec, Parks and Rec, Parks and Rec, Parks and Rec. So we're going to click on here so we can see everything that's happening in Apache Junction. And it shows you, I think, a month at a time. It's all Parks and Recreation, Parks and Recreation, Parks and... Maybe it's I'm on...
It did click just the Parks and Rec for some reason.
Oh. Even if I changed this to all, there might be some city council meetings on there, but it's mostly us. So you can sign up to be able to get notifications just for Parks and Rec, for all city happenings. But this is another tool we use, and we try to use this tool when people say, oh, I'm new to town, I have a business, I want to throw a big event, and I want to do it the first Saturday in December. Not a good idea, because that's our big, go to the website. We try to put all of our major events on here a year at a time to use as a guide for other departments, for ourselves, and for the outside community to kind of be able to see what we're doing. So I do recommend going and checking that out. We also have our own Parks and Recreation page, which is quite extensive. Again, for younger generations, they're not going to click through all of this stuff. They're going to go to Facebook, which Facebook, we create events for all of our major events as well. That's a great platform for us. But again, the older generations, they still like web pages, and we redirect a lot of people back to this for all the information. So those are our web pages. Any questions about that? So you guys are gonna all go home, do your homework, and sign up to get notifications on Parks and Rec. And that's how you know how you can volunteer at any of our events. So if you want to say, I want to come out and volunteer, what do you have coming up? Go check the city calendar, and then you can come back and say, Jamie, I'd really like to help out at the Easter egg hunt and throw out Easter eggs. We'd be very happy for that. So we have our ActiveNet is our registration. So they also have an app. So if you're an active app user, runners use it, other cities use it. But if you go into Active and you Google Apache Junction dance, our programs are going to show up in there. We use our marquee. We have cable slides. I actually got to be, anybody listen to Skylam Radio? So that's not effective marketing for me. But or Sky 7, Apache Junction, Talk of the Junction. I got to do 3 key pieces and talk about all of our great programs.
Is it a local radio station?
It is local. It's an app on your phone, so you can get the Sky 7 app, and it's local information. There's also some radio stations attached to it. So we've done some radio. We do have the capabilities to do direct emailing for all of our customers that are in our system. Promotional emails and road construction coming up. We were able to tell them how to get down to Prospector Park with the road construction happening. We also have a lot of partnerships that those in itself help market our program. So we work with Boys and Girls Club. We work with our schools. We are on the AJ Wellness Partnership. When we all get together and we share about our events, we attend each other's events. We are at every school function we're invited to share with parents and PTOs and PTAs what we have coming up. We do great things and people talk about it, and that is another great way that we are able to promote ourselves. When I get surveys back, it used to be, how did you hear about us? It was a lot of the print, the newspaper. I saw it in the newspaper. Maybe they saw it at the Multi-Gen Center. But now it's social media and friend referrals. That is what I hear the most of. And those friend referrals are more important to me than any other type of media, because that tells me people like what we're doing and they're talking about it. So that's marketing in a nutshell. Our goal is, like I said, we're on Facebook, 2 to 3 times. Within 2 days, there's not usually a day that goes by we don't have some kind of post. We have no professional photographers. That is all our own staff out there still. We have no professional writers. We do our own news releases. The only thing sometimes we ask for a little help on is our flyers. So we might buy a template, or we might contract out for a little help on designing those. But for the most part, we regurgitate old work that used to work really well, or we create our own.
Thank you, Jamie. Is there any other questions or anything?
I take it that social media is starting to outstrip the print media for.
Yeah, I'd say like in the last couple of years, maybe a little more, right. But like, as we said, we've learned, we went away from our citizen brochure for a while, and people just like having it, something in their hand still. So yeah, it's definitely outpaced it on our everyday marketing, for sure.
Yeah, there's a reason Google and Twitter and Facebook are worth.
And the schools just announced
Hundreds
to us
of
kind of on, forward thinking and things we want to do. We want to get better at the social media thing. We want to become more experts into it and learn how to use it more effectively. The schools are moving to digital flyers.
Yeah.
So that was our largest print of flyers in paper, was our school districts. And they're moving to the Peach Jar digital flyers, which is the norm of most school districts. So again, they're going to let us do both for a while, but something new we'll have to get used to.
You call it peach jar?
Peach
Yep.
Jar.
Yeah, I tell you, I got these wheel marks over my head tonight.
I know,
Aw.
it's a lot. Liz is like,
Us too.
let's try to make it all, it's a lot. It's
Yeah, I
a
told her
lot.
she had 10 minutes.
Sorry.
Just
I know,
kidding.
then I dominated. I'm sorry.
That's
Yeah, and Jamie, she loves talking about this stuff.
I do. I can tell you how great we are as long as you want to listen to me.
Okay. We'll put you guys together, and then you guys can talk about
It'll
it
be
some
like
more.
a 4-hour meeting.
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And that's why I said that's why I hope I didn't come across like I was trying to criticize, because I think
You're not.
I think Parks and Rec is one of the best things about Apache Junction, and I just want more people to see what's happening, because I know many people don't either get or even know or read this, and there are so many things that they can participate in, and that's why I was crushed, because I'm a Twitter user, and I was crushed for a while when all I saw was the cancellations, and I want people to be engaged and to come to these events because I want it to be successful. So
Right.
And like she said, you and I, we can sit down.
Yeah.
We are far from the experts. We outsource to our colleagues all the time, asking them, how do you do this? I'm stuck here. So we welcome any expertise folks have in that realm.
Definitely.
Okay, ma'am, thank you. That puts us down to our last item, which is Parks and Recreation Commission elections.
All right, so Mary and I will try to help lead us through this as painlessly as possible. You should have in your packet the process, so that way everybody kind of knows how we go through it. We will be electing a chair today and
Heather?
a vice chair. And so it's this little, so we kind of tried to guide us through it a little bit this year, because as we learned over the last year of how to do this best, it's very similar. If you go to the council meetings, it's very similar to that method. So the chair will open up the nominations, and at that point, once that's open, then folks can ask to be heard and nominate somebody. And the chair will ask that up to 3 times, or 3 times. And then after that, we will vote in the order that people were nominated. So the first person that get nominated would be the first person that you would all be voting We are doing our vice chair and our chair today. What order? Are we doing the chair first? Okay,
Okay.
turning over to you. You're white, you're all the white stuff.
Yeah, I'm the white boxes. At this time, I would like to open the nomination for Parks and Recreation Commission Chairperson for 2019. Can we have a nominee, please?
Honorable Chairperson, I would like to nominate Wayne Standage for Parks and Recreation Commission Chairperson 2019.
Okay. Now, do I have to repeat this
Yeah.
part again?
You just say, would anyone else, go to the next part
Okay,
and
I'll
say
go to
that
the
3
next
times.
one. Chair calls for anyone else who would like to make a nomination for Parks and Recreation Commission Chairperson. Number 1 call. Nobody. I love all the
It's gonna be a
smiles.
tough, it's gonna be tough, man. Who's gonna
Do
win?
it 2 more times.
Okay. Number 2, would anyone else like to make a nomination for Parks and Recreation Commission Chairperson for 2019? Still no answer. No name, I mean. Number 3, last call for nomination of Parks and Recreation Commission Chairperson for 2019. Okay.
Solid.
Next one.
Get him, Wayne.
Chair closes the nomination for 2019 chair. Nominations for Parks and Recreation Commission Chairperson for 2019 are now closed. May we proceed to a roll call vote for chairperson in the order of nomination, abiding by guidelines defined in the city code, please. That's over to you now, Mary.
Yes, it is.
Right?
And it'll be aye or nay. So I'll need an aye or nay vote from each one of you. Vice Chairman Bory, how do you vote?
So this is for, just for the record, this is for Wayne Standage, who is our only nominee.
Aye.
Commissioner Walde,
Aye.
Commissioner Gage,
Aye.
Commissioner Mueller,
Aye.
Commissioner Shanebeck.
Aye.
Ayes have it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, you guys. Okay, now, our
Congratulations.
next item is for the vice chair. The chair opens the nominations for 2019 vice chair. At this time, I would like to open the nomination for the Parks and Recreation Commission vice chairperson for 2019. Could we have a nomination, please?
I would like to nominate Jesse Gage for vice chair.
Okay. Would anyone else like to make a nomination for Parks and Recreation Commission Vice Chairperson for 2019? I tell you, I'm hearing crickets.
I know, so you can go through it real quick.
Yeah,
You only have
no,
2 more.
it goes through quicker then.
One polarized group.
Number 2, would anyone else like to make a nomination for Parks and Recreation Commission Vice Chairperson for 2019? Still crickets. Okay, last call for nomination of Parks and Recreation Commission Vice Chairperson for 2019. Still. Okay, at this time, the nominations for Parks and Recreation Commission Vice Chairperson are now closed. May we proceed with a roll call vote for Vice Chairperson in the order of nomination abiding by guidelines defined in the city code, please.
Okay, it'll be aye and nay again. Chairman Standage.
Yeah.
For Judy,
Aye.
for
Aye
Jesse
for
Gage
Jesse.
for vice chair. Vice Chairman Bory,
Aye.
Commissioner Walde,
Aye.
Commissioner Mueller,
Aye.
and Commissioner Shanebeck.
Aye.
The ayes have it.
Okay,
He's now the
that,
vice chairman.
that completes
As long as they
our-
just switch sides, because
our elections
it's my only
for this
stipulation.
time.
Yeah.
So I want to thank all my fellow crickets for their
Chirping in?
chirping in. Yes. Our next item is call to the public. Do we have any public out there? Nope.
Oh, okay.
You don't want to be public, huh? Okay, so we'll pass that. Number 10, we have requests for future agenda items. So let's start with Jesse. Do you have any in mind right now? Walker?
Just as a review, those fees, that fee schedule and stuff's gonna be in a year, right? We go over that for 2020?
Correct.
Okay, then no, I don't have anything next.
Judy?
Nope, I think it looks good.
Frank? Heather?
No.
Okay, I do have one I was wondering about. You know how it goes for me, Mary. This is like my once every 2-year request of how much usage we are getting out of not Prospector,
Flatiron.
Rodeo Ground.
Oh.
A lot of you may not know, we do have a lot of people who use it, especially during, October 1st and May 1st.
Rodeo season?
Than what people realize.
Yeah.
Yeah, if we could, a report at your convenience. We might have to put that off till, February, because our January meeting is on the 8th as a joint meeting?
Mhm.
Is that
Yeah,
okay?
yeah,
with
we
you?
won't be adding agenda items to the January meeting, so yeah.
No, I'm not looking at.
Yep, yeah, we can do that.
Sorry, it just popped in my brain. Okay, at this point, that's the only request we have. Do I have a motion for adjournment? Well, it's time for adjournment. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm used to friends.
Okay.
We have a motion for adjournment.
Oh, yeah, you get to just adjourn it.
You just adjourn it.
Good
No,
job.
I just adjourn it. I'm sorry, folks.
At a certain
You have another whole year now to
Yeah.
get all this
Get
down.
stuff
Yep,
down. Okay.
all right, thank
We
you
will
all.
adjourn at this time of 7:22. And I want